Come on in, guys, because it's time for Outwatch, a Survivor Rewatch podcast. My name is Alex, and I will be your host and guide through our Outwatch experience today and forever. We are smack dab in the middle of Survivor the Amazon Season 6, doing an episode-by-episode rewatch and recap podcast here with y'all. I'm joined by three of my friends who are experiencing Survivor for the very first time. Today's episode of concentration is episode 5 of Survivor the Amazon, titled Pick Up Sticks. I'm thinking about this right now. I don't know why it's called that. I don't know why we're talking about sticks. I guess they draw sticks at one point, but it seems like a silly name.
Yeah, I think it's because he dumps all of everybody's name on pieces of wood.
And they're stick-like items.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. That's the answer. I'm made better by my co-hosts. And why don't you meet those co-hosts now? Adam, welcome to Outwatch.
Good to be here.
In this episode, perhaps the highlight moment is this blind date / tribe swap that Dave and Jenna have the unique privilege of going on. And that got me thinking, Adam, of all the survivors we've encountered so far in our 2.5-ish seasons of Survivor, who would be your Survivor dream blind date?
Oh, all of the seasons that we've seen.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on this one.
Ooh, that's
you can pull from Cagayan or Pearl Islands as well.
No.
In that case, it's Wu from Cagayan. From this season, it was going to be someone else, but if I could pick anybody, it's Wu, 100%.
Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog style.
Yeah.
You'd be there faster than Sonic the Hedgehog. Wu's a good dude.
Big fan of Wu.
Emily, welcome to Outwatch.
Thanks for having me.
Emily, same question. Who's your dream Survivor blind date?
Well, I didn't know before answering this question it could be any of the seasons.
Yeah.
But if we're focusing on this season, my pick is Butch.
Good guy, Butch.
He
good
is.
Guy, Butch.
He's such a good guy.
Hey, Emily.
Yes.
Believe in yourself.
Thank you.
Believe in yourself.
I will.
Scott, welcome to Outwatch.
Hey, how's it going?
So good. Hey, who's your dream Survivor blind date?
So I'm gonna throw it back.
Throw it way back.
I guess throwing it back to our first season, but with the season we're in, it would be like throwing it forward.
Yeah.
True.
Lillian.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
That's a good pick.
Now I know how Jesus felt.
Yeah.
Or I could have gone,
I am a nice person.
oh, thanks so much. I'm so happy. No one ever picks me.
We could do scout stuff. It'd be great.
Rupert's over here thinking,
You me.
I would really love to have a blind date with Sandra.
In a sexual way.
Had to do it. I don't mean it. Love Sandra, though. She's the queen. Well, wonderful. Today, like I said, we're getting into episode 5 of Survivor the Amazon, titled Pick Up Sticks. And what do you say we roll through this episode beat by beat and hit the high points? What do you say, guys?
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
All right. We kick things off with a bang. Alex cuts his face on a machete while working at camp. He has to get all patched up. They use a can of Coke to cool the wound. Scott will get your take as a medical professional on that move here shortly.
Okay.
And then on the other side, Jean solidifies her isolation on the women's side of camp. She really puts herself further into the hole that she had already been. And then, of course, we have that infamous blind date. Dave and Jenna, as the youngest members of their respective tribes, get sent off for, quote, wine and laughter. And after a nice night alone in which Jenna really lets fly a lot of information about her tribe to Dave, Jeff comes back the next morning and Dave and Jenna have to draft new tribes. We've got tribe swap. And may need a fact check on this, but I do believe this is the first tribe swap in Survivor history.
Oh.
The new tribes shake out this way. Dave is joined by Heidi, Butch, Christy, Roger, and Jean. And Jenna selects for her tribe Alex, Dina, Rob, Shauna, and Matthew. Really interesting stuff going on about the way that these tribes shook out. At the new blue tribe, this is Dave's tribe. They work really hard to include Christy in the late night convos, and that goes a long way with her. But meanwhile, on the yellow side of things, Dina is really worried that Shauna is distracted from their girls' alliance by Alex, who is really just a cute guy. At the immunity challenge, we've got a word search followed by a paddling race, and Jenna's new yellow tribe wins that one, sending the blue tribe to tribal council. Things are looking like a stalemate at 3-3. In fact, the girls randomly select a stick and pick to vote for Butch. And Dave, sensing this stalemate, works really hard to get Heidi to flip and vote with the men. And ruin that stalemate. At Tribal, we hear about this from Heidi, where she's contemplating balancing being on a new tribe and yet keeping old loyalties. And as the dust settles, ultimately Heidi does flip on the girls, sends her vote on Jean, and Jean becomes the next player voted out by a vote of 4-2. And just like that, the first actual member of someone's tribe is eliminated from the game. Emily, sorry about it, but your poison dart frogs take a hit this episode.
Yeah, we do.
Good episode here. I thought this tribe swap stuff was really interesting. To hear their reasoning behind stuff. I thought that the ways that the new tribes broke injected some fun and some change into the game that was much needed. What were your guys' favorite moments of this episode? Scott, would you care to go first?
One of my favorite parts was like after the tribe swap. It was at is it Tambaqui?
Tambaqui.
Tambaqui. I should know that, having watched the episodes.
I just call him blue and yellow, honestly.
Yeah, I know. But at the new tribe, I really liked how they made Christy feel more included.
Yeah.
I really liked that. It was kind of heartwarming, just like the fact that they turned the lantern up and all that good stuff. Was one of my highlight parts of it.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Adam, do you have a favorite moment here?
I was going to say that. I would say generally I wasn't a big fan of this episode.
Really?
I think it's interesting, the whole letting two people pick the tribes the way they did, but I hated the whole, hey, you're going to go spend the night with somebody and there's one bed, so we expect you to sleep with them. And that was weird. I didn't think the challenge was particularly good for immunity. It wasn't a bad challenge, but it wasn't all that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they got to choose the new tribes was pretty cool. And then kind of dropping the bomb that all the information you just shared is going to come into play.
Right.
And I would echo what Scott said, seeing Christy go to a new tribe was really cool. And to see, especially Butch and, Roger and everybody just kind of we hear what you're saying. We're going to do our best to include you in every way we can.
Yeah. So. Emily, what was your favorite moment this episode?
I hate to echo everything that's been said, but I think I will do that. Obviously, Christy is on my team, and I think she's great. So I really liked the opportunity for her to kind of start fresh with some new people who made sure that, she was included in the conversations. And then it was interesting, I guess, when, what's her name? Where is she? Jenna, yes, was just spilling the tea about her tribe.
That tea was indeed spilt.
Oh, yeah. And then they switched tribes, and I just kept thinking, I'm sure that she was just in the moment and just ready to talk to someone who wasn't, involved in her tribe about what was going on. But I just can't imagine, in seasons that happened after that you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think she was thinking about how that could affect her strategically.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in future seasons, people may have been picked up on that a bit more and been more strategic because they could have anticipated a swap or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you couldn't do this again. This is like the one time you could do it, because in future episodes, anybody's anticipating that there might be this opportunity to kind of pick and choose. And so you're going to try to extract information from other people, not just offer up. I think this episode really showed us the Survivor as a reality show era of Survivor, not really a game show, or not really a big game.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this in like episode 1 when we started this season, that we see a lot of reality show elements in this season. And this Emily was like, this feels like Big Brother. Like it just had that vibe to it. Like when, Jenna and Dave roll up to this cabana that they're going to spend the night together with
Yeah, for sure. Only like added to by the fact that it's like, send your 2 youngest tribe
It's
mates.
ridiculous. It was so transparent.
Send your 2 hottest people.
Right. Well, and this is another example of like, it's the producers. Like the producers came into this. Like somebody came in and said, we're going to do this. Like,
let's talk a little bit about Jean when she comes back from camp here. She kind of like, she is right in assuming that she is the odd person out, but she does nothing to help her cause here. What you guys think about how Jean returned to camp and kind of played the martyr?
This episode was interesting because you had Jean and Dina playing like opposite roles, where Dina starts the episode by talking about how she's the alpha female, like she is in charge, is in a great position, and Jean is coming into this episode like, I'm screwed, like I'm out of the majority alliance. I have nothing. I have no real like game, hand to play at this point, and then realizes there's a swap, and she is expressing like, oh, this is great for me, and Dina's like, this is awful for me. But I just see we just see that like lack of strategy in these early seasons kind of bite people in this episode in particular, where Jean basically just accepted like there's probably going to be a tie and we'll see what happens. Yeah,
that was interesting the way that they just kind of wrote it off, except for the one person who didn't, and that was the difference maker. Let's talk a little bit more about the Survivor blind date. One of the things that really struck me was the amount of food that they're getting for basically nothing. Jenna said it best.
You've got to be crapping me.
You've got to be crapping me, she said, which is apparently a thing that you can say. But they got so much food for no reason other than being the youngest people. And that's like, we've talked about this before, but a legitimate advantage over everyone else that they get like a full meal here. And
2 full meals.
Yeah, 2 full meals is crazy for no reason.
Just being born right.
That's right.
I mean, we saw this in Cagayan where everybody voted one person on each tribe who got to go ahead of the tribe and then either choose an advantage for themselves or extra rice. Like this is a version of that. It's just there's so little strategy happening that we don't see anything come of it.
Yeah, and there's like no agency this time. It's just like whereas before there's a little bit with like who you voted for.
Yeah, it was weird. It just felt so odd. Reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, the producers definitely just like there's like you said, there's no like strategy involved. They just said, okay, pick the 2 youngest. Let's give them a bunch of food and make them pick teams.
Yeah. And we get the classic Survivor outdoor shower.
Yeah.
Staple.
Well, in a normal season of Survivor, like both of those people, Jenna and Dave, should have had targets on their back the second they came back.
Yeah.
because you don't know if you can trust them anymore.
Yeah,
But
true.
like, it's just everyone's just like, oh, okay, this is what happened.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I wonder if how much of that was like diffused by the immediate swap too, where like
Mhm.
immediately
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
worried about that. Yeah, we talked a lot about how Jenna like was really open and candid about what was going on at her tribe, and that like maybe turned out not being a solid move for her. How do you think that you should handle a situation like this where you're interacting with someone from another tribe who may or may not be, you know, on the same beach as you or with people who are on the same beach as you soon? Emily, how do you think that one should go about such an encounter?
I thought it was interesting how Dave did handle it. They spent a lot more time showing Jenna and what she was talking about her tribe, like kind of the way that she was just telling everything, like I said.
Yeah.
And then they spent like a very brief second showing Dave and what he was saying about his tribe. He was like, okay, well, I'll tell you all about my tribe now. And kind of like, okay, now I'll kind of, you know, equal you in the information shared. But in what he shared, it was just like, you know, this guy's from this place and he's a whatever.
Right.
And this
About the
guy's from
people.
here and he's, yeah. And I don't know how much further he got into the details, but that was interesting.
Yeah.
But he kind of made it like, okay, now I'll spill the tea. But in actuality, he just gave like facts.
Right. It seemed like he just gave, these are the people on the tribe. This is what they do. And this is how they are in the tribe. Whereas Jenna was like, this is my alliance. 'Cause
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Dave kind of had his core alliance. Like it wasn't like Alex and him were tight. It wasn't like Matthew and him were tight. It wasn't like Rob and him were tight.
Right.
Like he liked Roger and Butch. Those are the two people on that tribe that he liked. And he got both of them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas Jenna was separated from Heidi, who she was very vocal about being
And
her.
Christy.
Yeah. Yeah. Being on her side. Yeah. I think that, yeah, the way to handle this is kind of like what Dave did, but maybe a little bit more intentionally of like, because it would also backfire probably if you were just like outwardly, like I'm telling you nothing, you know, like to
Mhm.
give off the impression that you are like divulging secrets, but either, yeah, they're like not important or like stretching the truth, you know?
Well, it almost seems like you should be trying to form an alliance with that person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
like
a good
Dave
point.
and Jenna should have walked out of there feeling like if we both make it to the merger, like you and I are going.
Yeah. That's a great point.
True.
So
Odd question though.
Yeah,
I was
go
gonna say, what if you just? I was thinking like, how would it go if you were just like to completely lie about everything though?
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Probably
That's
not
the
well.
other half.
I guess in this case, you would then those people would then be with that other person, so it would probably
Yeah.
get diffused.
but like Alex said, that a swap hasn't happened, and we don't think a swap has happened in Survivor in the 5 seasons before this. So there's no reason to expect that, you know, they're going to swap tribes. It seems like what they should be preparing for is the merger.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard to, I guess, like that's my mindset is like this whole thing should have been preparing for the merger. Even if you walk away from it with a swap tribe, you know, at least then you're sitting there going like, yeah, at least I have an alliance or I have some people on the other tribe that I know I can get through. I just need to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that idea of like not knowing what's coming and therefore being unable to prepare for it is really interesting. And I think like when people talk about more like recent Survivor too, like Survivor's now in the place where they're adding like some new form of an advantage or a new form of idol like almost every season to, you know, continue to up the ante and keep it fresh and all that. But yeah, people make the argument that it's like some of these things are like unfair or just like unpreparable. Yeah, like it's impossible to prepare for them because yeah, how am I supposed to make a move keeping to like not be nixed by an idol nullifier when I don't even know that that's a thing that can exist in this game, you know?
Right.
And it's the same sort of thing here where it like, yeah, if these people have no context for like, oh, I need to like read the room to prepare for a swap or whatever, yeah, they're not going to do that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, it's part of like the game. Of course, you can like, compare this to like basketball, and obviously that wouldn't fly if they were like, by the way, this is ultra ball and you dunk it and you get 10 points. It's like, wait, hold on.
Like there was a point in basketball though where something like that had to happen where, I mean, all of a sudden, like, I didn't realize we could just dunk the ball. I didn't realize, like the alley oop. Right,
Yeah.
like someone tosses the ball up
in
to
the
someone
great
else.
film, Semi-Pro. The moment that the alley oop was invented.
When Jackie Moon invents the alley oop, he uses it to defeat the San Antonio Spurs.
But it's gotta be like that, or or like in football, like. Was there always a fake punt, or was that just like someone one day was like, wait,
what if
we can pretend to kick it and we're not actually going to kick it?
That is a good point. Yeah.
It's almost like that where it's like you're adding in something that changes the game in some way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just the fact that like, it's just the fact that it's less about like strategy. I came up with something that's really weird that like fits within the rules of the game, but like no one really thought of before me.
Yeah.
Now it's just like these people are adding in new pieces.
Yeah. What would make it a better analogy is if the referee at halftime, pulled aside the coach and was like, hey, I got you this ball here on the sideline and you can use that. And if you dunk that, you get 10 points.
Right. Exactly.
The other team doesn't know about it, but it's totally legit.
Yeah. Well, and that tests people's ability to, how do I use this? How do I think on my feet? How do I,
Yeah. Great game.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Guys, let's get into the big question of this episode. Who drafted the better tribe? Mm-hmm. When you look at the new Dave tribe and the new Jenna tribe on paper, who do you think drafted the superior tribe?
That is a tough question.
It is.
Maybe you do it from the perspective of the drafter too. Like if you're Dave, did you succeed compared to if you're Jenna?
I feel like both of them succeeded in their own right. I mean, Dave gets Christy, Heidi, and Jean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jenna has complained about Shauna. Like, you don't want Shauna on your team because she's comatose.
Right.
And that leaves
until
Dina
Alex shows up.
And I think, I think that Jenna drafted Dina pretty quick. So there wasn't Dave didn't have the option to take Dina. So it was like he took Chrissy, Heidi, and Jean. All that made sense.
Yeah. And they like alternated, right? So like Dave picked a woman, like, Jenna picked a man.
Jenna had to draft a guy, and Dave had to draft a girl, and they just alternated back and forth.
Right.
Whereas Jenna takes Matthew, Alex, and Rob, who are probably the three physical advantages from the men's tribe.
Maybe not Rob, but
well, I mean, you're talking about Rob, Roger, and Butch.
True,
like,
that's true. That's
kind of a toss up at that point. Like, I don't think that Roger and Butch are, particularly great picks. It's just kind of meh. So I think that they both did really well in terms of what they knew about the other tribe.
Yeah. So cop out. Scott, what do you think?
I was gonna say, like, initially when it happened, like my first thought was, man, the Jabiru tribe is like way better on paper. Mm-hmm. So just from not thinking about it from like each drafter's perspective, I'm like, from what we know about it and this point in the game, I feel like the Jabiru tribe has like the better players on it.
Yeah.
But when you ask the question, like, think about it from the drafter's perspective, like, I do think Dave did pretty good then because Roger and Butch are like his guys and he got to keep his alliance.
Yeah.
And that does say something good about what Dave did there. So
Emily, do you have any thoughts?
I guess I was just trying to think about the tribe's synergy after the picks.
Synergy.
Instead of looking at shut up, Adam.
It's 2002, but corporate buzzwords are all the rage.
Good Lord, I'm just stuck in the past now because of this season. instead of like looking at the picks on paper, just how they all kind of played out
Yeah.
when they were actually together. I think there's a lot of camaraderie in Tamaki.
Mm-hmm.
But then Jabiru is interesting because there are a lot of the younger people with some of the more strategic players,
Yeah.
but like seeing Shauna just completely do a 180
Right.
so that she's not just a bump on a log anymore. Like that was good for them.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of see like Tambaki seems more like game focused than Jabiru.
They're more team focused, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, team game focused. Whereas like
Yeah.
Jabiru is more like it looks like reality TV, and Tamaki is like they're very team focused. They're very much like we are together. We're a unit.
Yeah. Man, I hear what you're saying, but it really feels like Jenna's tribe is head and shoulders above the other one to me. Like, yeah, Dave gets to keep Butch and Roger around with him. But if you're Jenna, I feel like you've succeeded in everything you could possibly do going into this, except for keep Heidi on your tribe. That's the only thing she didn't get done. She gets, probably, like you guys were saying, your 3 biggest assets of men on the board. You get all 3 of them. You don't get to keep Heidi, but you keep Shauna and Dina, who are both a part of your alliance. There's not a woman on your tribe that you're not in an alliance with.
Right.
And all the men on your tribe are assets. And also you've picked Alex, who apparently was the salve that was needed to rouse Shauna from her age-old slumber. And by doing so, like, you've also revived her.
Yeah, like that's a fair assessment too.
And yeah,
this season is just so hard to like have this conversation about because they're so strategic in the way they.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if it was any other season, I'd be like, yeah, like Jenna's team looks like they're gonna crush it, and Tamaki looks like it would be in some kind of disarray.
Yeah.
But in this season, I don't know. I don't see that.
Yeah. What like saves Tambaki is like that they're like good folks on that tribe, and they are the band together sort of people. And so, yeah, it's like raising their ability.
And it seems like a prime opportunity of like who gets the momentum and they just rip it up because they have the momentum, not because they're, necessarily better, but just because its momentum is so much in this game.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I thought this stuff was really interesting. Immunity challenge. This is the word search and then boat thing. This is my big note, guys. They did it. They set up the puzzles so that you can't cheat off one another. They did it. They showed like an aerial shot and they were pointed at an angle such that you couldn't cheat off the other person when they were done.
Angled away.
They figured it out. Bottle this. Do it every time. One of my favorite moments was when somebody spelled a word that like kind of looked like piranha, but like it definitely wasn't.
Well, and then Roger at one point was like Jaguar, Jaguarg, and it was like, what?
Yeah, it took me like a full minute to be like Jaguar. Jaguar.
I didn't know they made such an animal.
Exactly.
This was just so uninteresting to watch.
I
Like
know,
it wasn't like a bad challenge necessarily.
Well, I asked Adam because it was a really close game. They kept playing that up. They were like, "Oh, Tamaki is like catching up. Don't give up, Tamaki." And I asked Adam, I was like, "What do they do when they get to shore with the flags? Like, is there another puzzle?" And he was like, "No, you just gotta put them up there." I was like,
put 'em in a
"Oh,
hole."
okay, cool."
Yeah, like you got to think in terms of the viewing experience,
Right.
Like I would never tune in to watch people do a word search.
Some puzzle master was like, "We're gonna make 6 people on each side of this do the same word search."
Yeah, it's like, and that's the number 2 for Tambaki. I don't care.
Yeah, this was a bad series of challenges for the viewer.
It's tough.
Yeah, my big thing with it was though, like they didn't even make the puzzle different. Like it was the same for both teams, right? Like they couldn't have even switched that up. Like, yeah, it was just not good.
Well, and then it was like you have to go out and get the 5 animals that you found, but like they were in the same spot. So the team that was in second place just looked for the boxes that already had the flags taken from it. So they didn't have to like. It's not like they were in different. There was just so much about this. It was like we were robbed of any good challenge in this. Like
maybe they anticipated it being harder to like remember the 5 animals or something, and they would like mess up and have to go back.
I don't know. Just give each tribe member 1 animal to remember.
Yeah, there's 6 people. Like,
I mean?
right. Yeah, it's they got to cut costs somehow.
Yeah.
Just mail in a couple challenges.
This was it.
This was the clip show episode.
Yeah, pretty much. They actually used to do this, and as a matter of fact, I think there probably is a clip show this season.
Oh,
we're gonna skip it if so.
Yeah, we will definitely skip it.
Yep, episode 10 is the first 27 days.
Oh, come on.
It's a recap episode. They used to do the clip shows during March Madness because March Madness was on ABC and they'd have to like change the airtime.
Yeah.
And so they'd do a clip show.
That tracks.
Fun fact.
We were just robbed of like any good challenge this episode.
We were robbed.
Yeah.
I keep thinking it too, like that's a dumb pun.
And through the magic
that's
of
not
the magic
the pun.
I can channel and harness those spirits.
Just because it was like the reward challenge was just who's the youngest on your tribe, they win, and then
hooray!
Thank
the
goodness
immunity was here's a crossword puzzle, go out and get these flags.
Yeah, thank goodness they didn't try to squeeze an actual reward challenge in this though too. Yeah, it would be nothing but challenges.
Yeah, this was just such a weird episode for me. Like,
I liked it for that reason.
There were like really good elements. There were elements that I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah. And
then there were elements that were like, what was the point of this?
Yeah.
Like the immunity challenge, like just felt so hard to watch as a viewer.
It wasn't great.
Also was just like, okay, here are your new tribes. One of you lost, so who's leaving? And they were like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't know these people, so let's do a tie. And it ended up being a little bit more strategic with Heidi switching a bit, but
right.
I mean, they were fully intending to just vote against each other.
Yeah,
it's like they haven't even had a chance to bond or anything, get to know each other at all.
Let's talk about that because that is the most strategic this season has been.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest thing from this episode to talk about is Heidi choosing to flip on the other women on her tribe to vote with the men and vote out Jean. And the fact that even this seems elementary, but like that Dave saw an opportunity to try and like swing her over and succeeded in that. Yeah, it is like the most dissectable move. So, let's try and make this decision for her. Why do you think if you're Heidi, this is the right move? Why do you think this is a potentially bad move? What do you guys think?
I don't know. Like, I wonder if I'm just trying to think about like what she was thinking about in that moment. And I can understand her worrying about flipping to the guy's side and then moving forward, being left out and kind of being in the minority. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, what if you all just decide to go for a tie and then you're in as Heidi, then you're the one that the guys vote for. And then you have to fight for your place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's like a risk in both, but one of them seems like she could have a little bit more control, especially thinking about, she may be in the minority moving forward, but there could be a merger.
Yeah. The word control there, I think, is pretty big that by flipping on the girl, she's put herself in control of what happens that night. It also takes the, like you said, the ability for the rock draw to boink her out, takes that out of the question.
It also removes any control that she has if they have to go to tribal again.
Yeah, because you've put the men solely in
right. You volunteered to be in the minority.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a rough position to be in. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, come to that. But also, this is just such a weird decision because like Chrissy and Heidi are technically in an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Jean is not in an alliance with them.
Yeah.
So part of my mindset is like, you know what? Like, I don't have to change my plan right now. Jean was the next one gone in my mind anyway. We'll just send her home.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a huge part of it, I think.
Yeah.
My favorite part, though, is when she asked Dave, what would you do if you were me?
Yeah.
Like, that was such a dumb question.
She probably was just like, I don't even know what to say. I need to stall for time.
He's like,
what would you do? And Dave's like, well, I would do what I'm telling you to do.
Right.
I would definitely come with me.
I would totally flip. I bet when they got to tribal council the next episode and Jenna saw that Jean got voted out, she was like,
You've got to be crapping me.
such like a I've got to say something that can be uncensored on network television moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that like the way that Dave approached this, I thought was really good too, where he kind of pitches to her that, listen, if you like vote with us here, like, yeah, you're right that you'll be on the bottom, but you'll be the last like woman to go from this tribe if it gets to that, I thought that was an interesting incentive for him to throw out there.
Yeah, well, and that's like, I mean, in current seasons of Survivor, you see people promise we're going to be the top 3.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's you, me, and them. It's like, you never promise someone like you're going to be the first one gone after everyone else is gone.
Right.
Like, you're last in, you're first out. Sorry. You never see that promise.
Right.
So it was so weird to see that promise in this episode of, if we get down to this point, like, you are gone.
Right.
But this guarantees you at least 2 tribals to get it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you guys think she was going to do it when you guys ended up at tribal council? Did you think that Heidi was gonna flip, or did you think we were going to end up in a tie? Scott, what did you think in that moment?
I felt like she was going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like they weren't going to actually do the tie thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's like too much opportunity to be had there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my thought. So, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also just easier to vote someone out that is going home,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just being like, we're going to vote for this person and they're going to vote for their person and we'll see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, there's too much of a variable there. I feel like for like anybody to actually go through with that.
Yeah, and it puts you solely in the path of potential destruction too, where
Right.
if you vote someone that's not your first choice, at least it's not you.
Right.
Yeah. And she talks about it really interestingly at Tribal, where she's like, we're in this place now where even though we came from 2 different tribes, like, we are one tribe now, like, and so we have to figure out how much we carry over, like, those existing alliances and stuff, and still operate as like a new unit, right? And so, yeah, she's like in this moment willing to ditch some of her old loyalties to do what's best for her and for her tribe in the moment, which, yeah, I think is some good like forward thinking.
I still think it's interesting though that Dave, like, that's definitely something he gleaned from what Jenna said, is
good point,
to tell her like, we definitely want to get rid of Jean, knowing that she was next anyway. So for Heidi, like, that wasn't a point of contention.
Yeah,
because that would have added another layer if he was like, we want to get rid of someone that
that's right,
you maybe don't have feelings about, or maybe do like.
Yeah, Dave couldn't make this play without the information that Jenna gave him.
Yeah,
and that is wild, actually.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Yeah, and that like even his knowing that she and Heidi are especially close. I don't know how that information probably was like helpful to as like targeting Heidi as the one to flip versus Christy, for example. Yeah, if he like knows that her strongest ally is on the other side of the island, she's probably looking for some new connection. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting, and you're right. I think probably the biggest strategic move of the season so far. So with that, Heidi is the decider of Jean's fate, and she's voted out, making that our first casualty of a tribe. Emily and the Poison Dart Frog loses their first member.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, it was a low week for you, Emily, only amassing 25 points after Jean got 0, and Christy voted incorrectly at Tribal, so she only got 5. Whereas Scott and Adam both picked up 40 points. And now our running total at this point is in third place, the Poison Dart Frogs at 125. In second place is Adam's Believe in Yourself and Aliens Tribe at 135. And Tribe Bangarang is leading the way by a 5-point margin at 140.
Oh.
Bangarang.
Bangarang, indeed. Emily, what do you think about your tribe at this point, having lost Jean? You've still got Rob, Christy, and Roger. You did have 3 members of that new blue tribe, now down to 2. What are you thinking about your hopes going forward with that threesome?
Well, I think I have a good mix of people. I've got someone who's very conniving, Rob. I have Christy, who's really hardworking. And I have Roger, who seems to be flying under the radar a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels less risky.
Yeah.
I've diversified my portfolio.
You have 3 people on the new Tambaki. Well, now you only have 2 people on the new Tambaki. But Scott has 3 people on the new Jabiru.
Correct.
And I managed to somehow maintain 2 and 2.
Yeah.
My biggest thought right now is just like, why does Adam always get the good picks and what am I doing wrong?
I'm in second.
I know, but we'll just give it time. I'm just having a personal crisis.
Adam's got
You're
Heidi.
in second, but you still managed to point out how much better your team is.
That's not. No. Here's the thing. That doesn't make my team better. That means that every week there is a 50-50 shot that someone on my team is going to tribal. Whereas for you guys, the risk is a lot less because if the other tribe goes to tribal, so for like Scott this week dealing with Alex, Dina, and Jenna, his only risk was Dave.
Right.
That's such a low risk. For you got unlucky because that majority tribe went to tribal. But, if that changes next week, then your risk is a lot lower. Mine is 50-50 every week.
Yeah.
Living on the edge, Adam.
It's just.
I think that, Dave was the last pick that went off the board. Scott cleaned up Dave at the very end. And, that's maybe looking like
Emily
a steal.
had the last pick. So it would have been Roger.
Are you sure?
Roger.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the draft right now.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Second to last
Emily
pick.
had the first pick, so she would have had the last pick. But,
True.
But it was Scott's last pick, which means it was the second to last.
That's true. That's true.
I'm feeling good about my team right now.
Dave is the douchiest player in this season, and somehow he is such a strong player to have in Fantasy Survivor.
Bangarang.
Bangarang, baby. Let's go.
Let's close things out with everyone's favorite segment, and that is naming our Outwatch MVPs. Let's take a quick look at the leaderboard to this point. Dina is running away with things. She has 6 MVP points, whereas Matthew and Christy have 1 apiece. This is the point where all 4 of us state our MVPs of the episode, who we think had the strongest showing and advanced their cause in the game the best. Scott, since you're leading the way as far as points go, why don't you give us your MVP this episode first?
I'm going to go with Jenna because...
Jenna's on the board.
Boom. Because of her ability to draft a team.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the Jabiru tribe is very strong. at least on paper, we'll see how the dynamic goes moving forward. But at least on paper, I feel like a lot of strong players are on her tribe. So I feel good about that tribe moving forward.
You've got to be crapping me.
Yeah.
A point for Jenna. What about you, Adam? Who are you going to give your MVP point to?
I think I'm going to give it to Dave, actually, the opposite side of that.
Bangarang.
I think,
Bangarang, baby.
I agree. I think Jenna picked a better tribe, but I think Dave really solidified his ability to at least get to the merger in swaying Heidi.
Yep. Huge move. Turning her over. You're right. That's really big. Emily, what about you? Who gets your MVP point?
Oh, gosh. I am torn. I think everyone's picks so far are very valid. I think Butch is great. I know I picked him as my first question answer, but just the way that he really brought the team together, the way that he made Christy feel very welcome, and made extra efforts to make sure that she was involved, I thought was very touching. And Christy thought so too. So
point for Butch.
Yeah.
Butch.
Gotta love
Good
Butch.
pick.
My second choice was Shauna for the miraculous recovery that she did.
Truly.
But I went with Butch.
She went from 0 to 100 instantly.
Showing a lot of grit.
Yeah, she's real gritty.
Really just pull herself up by her bootstraps.
That's
you know,
right.
no
That's
help
right.
from anybody.
No.
Except for Alex.
I'm
gonna
talk more about that next episode.
Indeed, we will. I'm going to also assign my point to Jenna for the same reason that Scott did. I was really close between Jenna and Dave because Dave getting Heidi to flip is so huge, but I really think Jenna put herself in a great position with the tribe that she drafted. Similarly to what you were saying with Dave, I think that she's in a really safe spot for the rest of this until we hit the merge. I don't think that she's going to be voted out anytime soon with who she's got around her. Any closing thoughts before we wrap things up for this episode?
I think this is the first time I've ever been in the lead in Fantasy Survivor.
Is it?
I feel like
last
you had some
episode-
good luck with RNGesus last time.
I would say Kagayan gave you Tony.
True.
No, you were never in the lead. I'm looking at it now.
You kind of ran away with it.
Yeah, I ran away with Kagayan. What about the first one? No, you were in the lead.
Was I?
In the first one, yeah. You ran the board until
No, he didn't.
look.
No.
He's
25 and you're 26, weirdo.
Oh, I'm looking at Emily's. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, Scott, you got really, really close towards the end of Pearl Islands, but then Adam happened to have Sandra DS20.
Sandra. Yeah, it came down to Sandra, didn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're right. This is the first time. Really Emily had to have been leading at some point, right?
Wow.
I can't always be leading in these.
Wow.
Yeah, Emily, Dara's second win had
Dara's second win had a really
She
good
did
run.
have a second
She
one.
did.
Yeah.
in the early episodes of Kagayan.
So this is your first time leading. 2 weeks now.
That's right.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Do you wanna trade somebody, Scott?
Hey, wait till
we
next
can't do that
episode,
until next
guys.
episode.
Chill out. Jeez.
Let me think about it.
Okay. We'll give it a week. We'll come back to
we'll
this.
come back in a week.
Totally give it a week.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast feed and to follow us on Twitter at Outwatch Podcast. And hey, folks listening at home, we also want to hear who you would love to have a Survivor blind date with. Hit us up with the answer to that question on Twitter, or you can email us at outwatchpodcast@gmail.com. And we will shout out your answers. So thanks for listening. And next time on Outwatch, we will be recapping episode 6 of Survivor the Amazon, titled More Than Meat, MEAT is the I. It's disgusting.
Yep.
See you then.